I love Rick and Morty, and although the show has dropped in consistency since it started, for better or worse, it remains one of the best animated comedies that I've ever seen.
Phones a la clams and phone sketty with phone balls. Anything else?
Yeah, more phone sticks, please.
Right away, sir.
But it's not just the humor that elevates it above other shows. For me, it's also its brilliant portrayal of the tragic nature of human life.
Nobody exists on purpose. Nobody belongs anywhere. Everybody's gonna die. Come watch TV.
Which is why I want to focus in on an aspect so central to the human experience that Rick and Morty covers so terrifyingly in one of its darkest episodes, the heartbreak of love lost and the incapacity to do anything about it. Because unlike most media, which usually depicts heartbreak by the pain felt when someone ends a relationship because of a terrible thing someone did or a mistake that someone made, in Rick and Morty, we get something different. The betrayal of love that ends from your own dissatisfaction and your own inability to be with someone who's perfect for you. This happens in Season 2, Episode 3, with the relationship between Rick and his former flame, Unity, a hive mind species who assimilates other life forms into one collective organism.
You mean stealing people's bodies?
Summer, rude.
Rick and Unity's relationship ends because of Unity, and importantly, not due to Unity feeling unhappy with Rick, but instead due to Unity feeling unhappy with herself, despite realizing that she does truly want him. We see this in the ending of the episode as Unity pens a breakup letter to Rick and explains that she is attracted to him for the same reason that she cannot be with him, the fact that he cannot change, which is something that she adds isn't a problem with Rick, but rather a problem with herself.
I realize now that I'm attracted to you for the same reason I can't be with you. You can't change.
And I have no problem with that, but it clearly means I have a problem with myself.
Unity realizes that her issue isn't with Rick's inability to change, but rather with her inability to love him for it, which to me almost feels like a double-edged sword because that quality of Rick is part of Unity's attraction for him, but it's also the quality that makes her unable to love him as much as she wants to. However, regardless of this, she concludes the letter by telling Rick that she knows that she belongs to him, that she will always belong to him, which to me is another haunting realization that suggests Rick is the only one for Unity and that she might never find love like the one she had with him.
Yours. And nobody else's. Unity.
So how could she possibly choose to leave? To me, this is what makes their relationship ending so tragic, even though it does fit into that cliche trope of it's not you, it's me type of breakup. Because even though Unity is realizing Rick really is perfect for her, she still chooses to walk away because of her own inability to love his perfection. It sounds like a strange concept to grasp because, again, it feels like it doesn't make any sense. If someone's perfect for you and you realize that, why would you still be willing to walk away? In my opinion, we get more of an explanation to this as Unity also writes that she is also fearful of losing who she is as a person and becoming part of Rick's own character, because no matter how hard she tries, Rick always seems to be better at doing what she does without even trying.
But I know how it goes with us. I lose who I am and become part of you. Because in a strange way, you're better at what I do without even trying.
Unity realizes that Rick always seems to be wiser and better at anything that Unity tries to do, which suggests that Rick's intelligence, confidence, and strong sense of self-worth are all qualities that Unity loves in Rick, because we know that she admires him as a person, but they're also the exact same qualities that make her not want to be with him. It implies to me that Unity's own intelligence, confidence, and sense of self-worth feel threatened because of Rick, as they all dwarf in comparison to him, which is why Unity says that she is worried of losing herself by being with him. And because Rick cannot change, Unity thus recognizes that she will always feel shadowed by him. But this isn't just insecurity. Unity doesn't just feel incomparable to Rick. In my view, Unity is expressing how she feels inherently alone with Rick because there's nothing she can do that will ever change Rick or her own self into a version that will allow their love to last. Unity is realizing both the very nature of Rick and of herself, as well as the reality of what they are together, which ultimately makes her decide to walk away. That is why I feel that this is one of the darkest episodes of Rick and Morty, because it's painting a truly horrifying picture of the human experience. The idea that one day you might be in a situation where you realize that no matter what you do, no matter who you are, nothing can change. A haunting reality that you cannot change someone's mind and that you cannot even change yours. This is also reflected with Rick and how he reacts to the letter, which clearly affects him emotionally. As he reads Unity's words to him, Rick completely understands everything that she is saying, but it doesn't change the fact that he still feels utterly lost by what it all means. The end of him and Unity. Rick's melancholic reaction implies that he didn't see this coming because the impact of Unity's departure weighs so heavily on him. It becomes a cruel irony for the man who knew it all, but who could not know that this would happen. For the one who was always 10 steps ahead of everyone else, Rick is now the one who is in the dark. And the price he pays for letting his guard down are these feelings of loneliness, hurt, and betrayal. But Rick doesn't run away from how he feels. He doesn't just ignore his hurt. Even though he calmly brushes it off to his family in an attempt to maintain face, he importantly goes to the garage and chooses to let the sadness of the moment truly hit him. He stares head-on into the empty void in front of him to the point where the darkness he sees almost devours him in a failed suicide attempt. This moment encapsulates why this episode is one of the darkest, because it's the only time Rick tries to commit such an act, and it includes deeper layers to the heartbroken emotions that he's going through. For instance, even though Rick knows he could go to a different universe and be with a different version of Unity that doesn't break up with him, to me, Rick also knows that this would be the easy way out, and moreover, that by doing so, it would just make things worse. Because who would want someone different when the only one you really want is exactly the one you cannot get? And while Unity loved Rick because he couldn't change, in my view, maybe Rick loved Unity for that very same reason. Like Rick, Unity couldn't change because her letter mentions that she would just continue unifying species after species, but would still never feel truly complete. She could assimilate any species that she wanted to, but she could never really change. Thus, Unity adds that she understands that there will never be a perfect version of herself, and so in a way, she had a characteristic akin to Rick. She was someone who couldn't change, and someone that wasn't perfect.
I'm sure there's no perfect version of me. I'm sure I'll just unify species after species and never really be complete.
But this doesn't make Unity a hypocrite. Rather, to me, it's suggesting why the two of them fell in love in the first place. Because they shared such common qualities as people. Unity reminded Rick of the qualities that brought them together, but that ultimately would split them apart. By Unity acknowledging that she will never be complete, that she will always be missing something that makes her whole, it makes Rick realize that that's exactly how he feels. This letter is an open and frank dialogue that expresses both Unity and Rick's recognition that even though they share so much, they will never be that missing piece for the other, no matter how hard they try.
Rick, forgive me for doing this in notes. I'm not strong enough to do it in persons.
I realize now that I'm attracted to you for the same reason I can't be with you. You can't change.
And I have no problem with that, but it clearly means I have a problem with myself.
I'm sure there's no perfect version of me. I'm sure I'll just unify species after species and never really be complete.
But I know how it goes with us. I lose who I am and become part of you. Because in a strange way, you're better at what I do without even trying. Yours. And nobody else's. Unity.
This leaves Rick feeling truly alone in another cruel twist of fate, as although he walks and looks around to see that Unity can be found anywhere, with her gone, she leaves Rick feeling like he's nowhere, and that no matter what he does, he will always be alone. Rick cannot change his nature, and Unity's letter to him makes him realize that this admirable quality about him is really the reason why he will continue to feel alone wherever he goes. As although he will always be better than everyone else around him, at the same time, he will never be able to do something that everyone else can. Change. He will never be able to be different, to improve or better himself. He will always be a perfectly flawed human being that will never fail at anything, even though he will still feel like a failure. For all his intelligence and wisdom, Rick's only true flaw is his inability to change who he is. And that is why Rick attempts suicide. Rick's realization that he cannot change is also the reason he hates himself. He has to live knowing this terrible truth about his own nature, along with all the terrible secrets of the universe that nobody else would understand, which ultimately means that no one can comprehend his pain. Not even his own family can begin to grasp it. To them, he is the smartest man in the universe, so why can't he even cure his own depression? The only person who came the closest to understanding is Unity, but once she decides to leave him because of it, Rick has nothing left and decides to end it all. What's interesting about this final moment is that the creator and co-writer of the show, Dan Harmon, mentions that the potion Rick drinks before putting the death ray machine together is actually a potion that synchronizes all the versions of Rick in every conceivable timeline and universe, meaning that this act wasn't just about Rick killing himself, but rather killing every single version of himself that exists. It implies that his heartbreak from Unity is not just such painful anguish for him, but that it's also so painful to the point that it's a feeling he does not want for all the other Ricks to experience. He is making that final ultimatum on behalf of all his kind, and he doesn't care of the implications on his descendants because it is too much of a weight to carry, too heavy of a burden to shoulder. But to me, I also see that in taking this potion, Rick believes that his universe would actually be truly better off without him, and that all other universes can do without this sentient life form known as Rick Sanchez, no matter which version it may be. And maybe a deeper recognition that it isn't just this version of Rick that cannot change, but that all versions cannot. That this is something so inherent to being a Rick, and that no Rick, wherever they exist, will ever be able to overcome this fact of their nature. It's also terrifying to think that if you were Rick, you would be living in constant fear that at any moment there are other versions of you that have the power to end your existence just like that, which to me is fitting given that the larger takeaway from this episode is that Rick's biggest enemy is really himself.
Oh my god, you guys, I get it. You're afraid the big bad hive mind is gonna steal your grandpa away.
Actually, no. I think Unity's great and you're a horrible influence on it.
What? This isn't healthy, Rick. You know, you're really up to no good around here at this place, you know?
You and Unity are like leggings and mid-calf boots. You think you're great together, but you're just bringing out the worst in each other.
But this moment continues to unveil darker notions that link towards other episodes in the show, with the creature that Rick removes and kills using the machine before attempting to do so on himself. This creature looks like those that appeared in a previous episode called Rick Potion number 9, which centered around a horrific event where everyone in the world was accidentally turned into Cronenberg versions of themselves. This was Rick's original universe, and in that episode, we see Rick attempting several potions and methods to cure those that were horribly altered before ultimately abandoning it and coming to the one that we see in this episode with Unity. But the fact that this creature is still here in this new universe suggests that Rick potentially kept it in order to find a cure so that he could restore his original universe back to what it was, and maybe to return to it one day, which leads me to believe that Rick was determined not to give up, and that maybe he didn't truly abandon everyone, and that he was still holding on to some hope of fixing everything. Until, of course, in his darkest moment, he does decide to eventually give up and destroy the creature once and for all. And if the theory of this synchronizing liquid is true, it would mean that all versions of this creature are now gone. Thus, Rick isn't just giving up on hope on himself, but also on all those he left behind. Now he can never go to another universe to find them.
Rick, what about the reality we left behind?
What about the reality where Hitler cured cancer, Morty? The answer is don't think about it. It's not like we can do this every week anyways. We get 3 or 4 more of these tops. Now pick up your dead self and come on. Haste makes waste.
But although this is the sad fate for the creature, Rick doesn't succumb to such a tragic end. In the very last second, Rick passes out and avoids the death ray from the machine. His suicide attempt fails not because he was overwhelmed by emotion, but because he blacks out from being drunk. An interesting irony of how something so toxic as Rick's alcoholism, which by all means has been and is continuing to slowly kill him, ends up being the only thing that actually saves him. I also love that this scene depicts one of the few times where we see Rick truly alone. There is no Morty, no Summer, no Jerry or Beth, or even his loyal companion, Bird Person. Rick is all by himself. And when someone does eventually appear, they ignore Rick in the background, who is still passed out as the long days wear on. Most of this series is about Rick and how he is portrayed through the eyes of those that are around him, but in this scene, Rick is truly separated from everyone else. Unity's letter has put Rick in one of the darkest caverns of his life. It's the one time where we see the darker side to being Rick, the very fact that he cannot change as a person and that he isn't able to fix everything. Maybe this is why we often see Rick's self-destructive and reckless nature time and time again throughout the series, because he is haunted by a terrible darkness within him and that threatens to consume him at any moment, which would also explain why even Rick's catchphrase is really a secret cry for help to ease the suffering and pain that he harbors deep down inside. For him, there is no meaning to life, no way he can change, and no possibility for anything better. Here lies Rick, the smartest man in the universe, who cannot even find a single reason to live. Despite all of this, the story isn't over. Amongst all the darkness, a slight glimmer of hope still remains, and it comes in the form of the one thing that can save Rick from staring down into the abyss: his grandson, Morty. Throughout the show, we can find that Morty is often the only person that Rick shows genuine emotion for. And Morty is the one who has been saved countless times by Rick on their many adventures. While Rick does care for the rest of his family, especially that of his daughter, for some reason there seems to be a special bond between him and Morty that in turn could very well represent Rick's entire emotional attachment to his family. Even when Rick is cursing out Morty with a stupendous amount of wild outbursts, when push comes to shove, Rick does truly care for Morty. Rick is the one who often imparts wisdom onto Morty and who wishes him to be better than he ever could be. Rick is the one who goes out of his way to protect Morty, even though it rarely makes sense to do so. Rick could easily get a new Morty from a different dimension, but he never does so, and he chooses to stay with the original one that he has. He chooses to save the very same Morty that causes him so much strife and grief, and when his memories are prodded to see which treasured moments he holds on to dearly, whose images come to Rick's mind the most? Those of Morty. This might be why the show is called Rick and Morty, because it isn't just about Rick. It's about his equally important counterpart, Morty. Rick might be the smartest man in the universe, but his relationship with Morty doesn't mean he is above something else that many in his position might be too proud to overlook. Family. Rick loves Morty because he loves his family. Morty is Rick's counterpart not from an intellectual standpoint, but because of something else, their bond as grandfather and grandchild. But it might be even deeper than this, because when I view those images of Rick crying as he looks at the memories of Morty as a baby, there's something more to them than just a nostalgic picture. In my view, Rick isn't just reminiscing about a treasured moment, but rather he seems to be truly admiring Morty as a person, as a human being who will grow up to be someone completely different from Rick, with all his flaws and insecurities and weaknesses. Because although Rick cannot change himself, it's in this moment that Rick realizes that there is a part of him that does have the ability to change, and it's within his own genes that are a part of the same human being he helped create. Maybe the smartest man in the universe does have a reason to live after all.
I love you, Morty. Give Grandpa a kiss. Give Grandpa a kiss. Lips if you want. Whatever you're comfortable with. Some cultures do that. That was sweet. Thank you. I love you. You're my little buddy. Okay. Let's watch some interdimensional cable.